Deciding on a smartphone is kind of like dating. After a while, you figure out that no single option is ever going to be perfect. From the feel of its curves to the quirks of its personality and even the power of its stamina. What ultimately matters is finding a total package that makes sense for you and your own needs. So a phone's camera isn't everything, but there's no denying it's important. In this day and age, having a smartphone that can snap decent-looking pictures without much effort means a lot. And going from decent-looking pictures to great-looking pictures, well, that's just gravy. The latest two flagships ducking it out for your affection are Samsung's Galaxy S6 and HTC's One M9. The two devices have very different pros and cons, and each has its own sort of appeal. So how do their cameras compare? Let's check the images. Both images are reasonably decent, but the S6's photo looks sharper and more color realistic while the M9's is a bit mudded in comparison, almost like it was taken with a layer of film over the lens. Same deal in this picture, the S6 picture is crisp and full of light while the M9's, though not awful, is definitely a little murky looking and inappropriately colored. A gorgeous shot from the S6, with lovely clarity and an impressive amount of detail even when you zoom in at full resolution. The full resolution view is worth checking out on this one. The M9's photo looks washed out in comparison, note the sky in particular, and shows a lot more detail loss when you zoom in and look closely at the full resolution image. The same shot, only with HDR mode manually set to on both devices. No visible change on the S6, since it was shooting with HDR automatically the first go-round in this case. The M9 definitely looks a lot better than before, though look at the sky and the big green tree in particular, and in and of itself, its photo isn't half bad. But when you look closely and compare it to the S6's image, it's still a meaningful step behind. Two reasonably respectable images, though the S6 continues to have a distinct upper edge. Part of that may be because its auto HDR feature appears to have kicked in here, as the detail and lack of washing out in the sky suggest. Look at this set of images. What a difference! Just look at that lighting and the coloring. These were taken mere seconds apart. The bright sunlight tripped up both phones a bit here, which is something that happens to some degree with almost every phone I test using this same shot, but the M9's image is far more washed out in general than the S6's composition. Both photos are pretty solid, but the M9 ended up tinting the entire image a slightly yellowish color. The S6 is more accurate and delivered the better looking photo. Two decent photos, all in all, but look closely and you'll see that the S6 captured more light and detail and has the sharper looking shot. Low light in a garage with only a small amount of natural light coming in from a nearby covered window. The results speak for themselves. The same images again, only here with the M9's night mode activated, the S6 automatically went into night mode on its own the first time. As you can see, the shift didn't make much difference. Two nice enough images, with the one from the S6 being noticeably sharper and more accurate in coloring. Pull up the full res versions, and you'll see the difference. A beautiful 2-month-old baby in her fancy swing, which was rocking back and forth while these photos were taken. The M9 picked up a fair amount of blur, even with that relatively slow movement, while the S6 captured a pretty strong image that almost makes you think our stunning subject was sitting still. Also note the differences in lighting and coloring between the two. A couple of colorful drinks in a fairly dim restaurant. Respectable detail from both devices, though the S6 again pulls ahead in its ability to draw in light, accurately reproduce colors, and produce a sharp-looking shot even in non-optimal conditions. Same restaurant, taken through the glass of the tank. Not much more can be said about the pictures don't demonstrate. These pics are taken in full resolution if you don't see the differences right away. The M9's picture would actually look pretty good, if the S6's image weren't right near it. Again, the differences are most apparent when you're viewing larger versions of the images. One final low light shot to round things out. The image was taken while pointing the phones down at the cute girl when she was in a very dim corner of the house at night, anything but ideal photo-taking conditions. The M9 wasn't quite up the task. The S6s image isn't necessarily something we would frame, either, but it's not half bad considering the circumstances. And, that's a wrap, folks. It pretty much goes without saying that the Galaxy S6 has an exceptional camera. I wouldn't call the One M9's camera terrible, meanwhile, but I also wouldn't call it great. It's okay. It's good enough to take casual on-the-go snapshots when you need to, and with a little bit of processing or a touch of Google and Auto Enhance magic, most of them should be good enough for online sharing or even printing. It just comes down to how you plan to view and use your images, how important photo quality is to you, and if good enough is, well, good enough. Of course, good enough isn't the same as great. The Galaxy S6 clearly falls into the latter category and is the winner of this particular comparison. Truth be told, most current smartphone cameras would struggle to shine next to its consistently high level of quality and versatility, especially when you're doing an up-close analysis. But as we said, camera quality is only one factor to consider in your smartphone selection, and every device has its share of compromise. Subscribe and comment below to tell us about the video. Don't forget to like and share the video. Thanks.